right, jumping over and talking about the running backs in week 8, absolutely saw this year has been absolutely terrible. I'm trying to say for injuries. And if you haven't been able to stash some of these backup handcuff kind of guys, you probably have gotten to the point that you lost games because you're getting like zeros from your running backs. I've seen some pretty devastating situations across leagues, and this was the year where you really needed to make sure you had security across the board for running backs, and it just seems to keep getting worse. Now we have Chris Carson and Kenyon Drake going to be missing some time. We saw Jeff Wilson come out and have the running back 1 performance of the week, but then he's going to be missing some time. So more and more running back injuries just keep piling up here. Every single week we're coming back to the waivers here and saying, okay, we've got another potential option here. Mark Ingram, we still don't know the extent of that injury. They keep trying to come off and saying that it's a mild injury, but it still is a high ankle sprain. So I don't really know what that means. To me, it sounds like coach speak. I don't think Mark Ingram plays this week. So if you were trying to count on him this week, I think you're going to have to pivot and find another option. So plenty of problems to deal with the running backs here. Now, we've talked about Chase Edmonds a ton, and I don't want to talk about him anymore because if you've been listening to me, you've already stashed him on your bench and you are now celebrating because Chase Edmonds is going to be the RB1 for Arizona, at least until Drake gets back, and arguably should be the RB1 for the remainder of the season. I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury to make the rational decision and stay with Edmonds. So that's, the old adage of assumption of rational coaching. I don't think we can assume rational coaching with Kingsbury at this point, which is upsetting because Chase Edmonds could clearly be that league-winning running back that we were touting pretty much the entire year. He comes out, has a fantastic day, even on just playing as the lead guy for half of the game. We saw Chase Edmonds come out and put up over 20 fantasy points in the half of the game that he was playing as the lead guy there. And this is a very powerful offense with a good quarterback in Kyler Murray, dominant receivers in Hopkins and Christian Kirk coming back alive. This is a strong team, and you want the running back on that team. We saw, Drake have a good game last week against Dallas. Well, I think Edmonds is going to be far more efficient on his touches. Should he actually see the majority of the carries now, he could very easily jump into that middle or high-end RB1 tier, finishing as a top 10 running back pretty much every week is probably we're going to have him ranked as long as he's the lead guy there. So if you didn't listen to me before, you're just checking me out for the first time now, and he happens to be on your waiver wire, you have to drop every single penny of fab. Make sure you get Chase Edmonds. I know he's on bye this week, and that makes it a little bit frustrating because you're going to pick him up and you can't use him immediately. But if he's out there, you absolutely have to roster him. J.K. Dobbins, another guy that's probably not on your waiver wire, shouldn't be there. But as I mentioned in the lead-in here, I do think Mark Ingram misses this week. It's going to be a rough matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is why I like Dobbins a little bit better than Edwards. Gus Edwards is featured down here as well as an option if you need a start this week. When Mark Ingram went down back in week 6, we saw Gus Edwards get the majority of the carries, but J.K. Dobbins was more involved in the passing down situations. So Edwards finished with 14 carries and 26 yards, whereas Dobbins, again, more involved in the passing game, which is why I'm more excited about Dobbins heading into this rough matchup against the Steelers. The Steelers' run defense has been pretty dominant up to this point. I think J.K. Dobbins could definitely break a few away, though, in the passing game. So would prefer Dobbins, but both of these guys are going to be worthy of a start with Ingram out and considering all the other injuries across the board. JaMycal Hasty is the running back that I'm most interested if I need a running back start this week. I don't think his value is going to be very long-lived, so do with that as you will. I have him put here as 10% of your budget, but again, I'm not expecting him to be really useful beyond this week. He did have another decent showing. He went 9 carries for 57 yards, had 1 target for 1 catch and 16 yards, no touchdowns on the day. All of those went to Jeff Wilson, but he looked good on the runs that he got. And with Wilson out and McKinnon basically disappearing from that offense, watch McKinnon come out and be the guy this week because that's how Shanahan likes to be. But JaMycal Hasty, I think, is a fine start this week. Other than that, I don't know. Long term, I wouldn't really count on it. With Chris Carson going down, could potentially be out for a week or multiple weeks. Carlos Hyde came in and had himself a really nice day. 15 carries for 68 yards and 1 touchdown. Also 3 catches on 4 targets for 8 yards in that game against Arizona. Now, Carlos Hyde also dealing with a hamstring injury of his own, which is something to monitor. And if you are picking up Carlos Hyde with the intention of playing him, you absolutely have to also grab DeeJay Dallas. Find a way to get both of these guys onto your team. I know that's going to make your bench slots disappear pretty quickly, but if Carlos Hyde does not play this week, DeeJay Dallas is effectively the only starting running back on their active roster at this point, because Travis Homer also went down with a knee injury. So they're probably going to have to pick someone up off the waivers or elevate someone from their practice squad. Rashad Penny's not likely to be back, at least not this week. So if Carlos Hyde is unable to go, again, a tougher matchup for the run game against San Francisco, but DeeJay Dallas could be pretty heavily involved in the passing game there. And if he's the only real guy there getting bell cow work, even against a tough defense, have to keep that in mind. So if Carlos Hyde isn't out there, I'd still throw DeeJay Dallas on the back of my bench in just the hopes that I could potentially use him this week. All of these guys are pretty much 1 week options. Down here on the third bracket we have, these are guys I think have a better chance of actually sustaining value beyond week 8. Tevin Coleman, we already know that Shanahan loves to feed Tevin Coleman the ball. Even when Raheem Mostert was playing well, Coleman would often get the start and get the majority of the carries. Looks like Mostert is going to be out for a while, and we also now have Wilson out for a while. So Coleman's going to come back into a situation where he's probably going to end up getting the lead work again. I don't think he's back this week, but most likely will be back by week 9. And we'll see how long Mostert ends up being out, but you could get 2, 3, 4 starting weeks with Tevin Coleman by the time Mostert is healthy again. So definitely like that for a bit more long-term value. JaMycal Perine for the New York Jets had himself a decent day for a New York Jets running back. 11 carries, 39 yards, not great in the yards per carry category. A touchdown on the day, also had 3 targets, 2 catches and 16 yards. Again, we're just looking for running backs that can put up any semblance of points at this point, and I think JaMycal Perine is definitely worth a small fab bid for you. And then the 1,000 IQ play here is grab Rashad Penny. Chris Carson has already missed multiple drives, and now he's going to potentially miss multiple games due to, he's had various injuries up to this point. He had a concussion at one point. Now he's dealing with a leg injury. So at any point, Chris Carson could miss even more time, and Rashad Penny is just kind of sitting there on the PUP list, recovering, waiting to come back. If Chris Carson doesn't get back to full health, we could see Rashad Penny end up coming back and being the starting running back for this high-octane team with Russell Wilson continuing to cook every single week. You want the running back on that team. Even Carlos Hyde had a good fantasy day, and I don't think very much of Carlos Hyde. So if you have an IR slot on your team that's free, pick up Rashad Penny, stash him on your bench, and just wait and see what happens. It can't hurt if you have an IR slot. If you don't have an IR slot, I'm definitely a lot less inclined to do that move because it wastes a bench slot that you probably need getting through the buys. But if you have an IR slot, definitely slide Rashad Penny onto that IR spot at least for the next week or two and see what happens. This was a similar move we recommended last week, picking up Antonio Brown. That turned out to be a good idea. I think this could be another one of those kind of moves.